gotta slug you. Ugh! I've been kissed by a dog!
December 9th, 1965. CBS executives sat in a screening room watching what they thought would be the biggest disaster in television history. A Charlie Brown Christmas had no laugh track. Real kids voiced the characters.
Okay, I'll take Linus with me. The rest of you practice your lines.
Get the biggest aluminum tree you can find, Charlie Brown. Maybe paint it pink.
Yeah, do something right for a change, Charlie Brown.
Some couldn't even read yet. And worst of all, it had a Bible passage right there in prime time. The network was convinced they'd just killed Christmas. But here's what actually happened. 15 million households tuned in that night. The special won an Emmy and a Peabody Award. And 60 years later, it's still the gold standard for holiday television. But there's something CBS executives didn't tell you back then. Something about this special that almost never made it to air. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why this humble cartoon changed television forever, and why the people who made it thought they'd just committed career suicide. Before we dive in, do me a favor, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for what comes next. Now, if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, you know the drill. Every December, you'd circle the date in TV Guide. You'd gather the family around the television, and for 25 minutes, you'd watch Charlie Brown try to figure out what Christmas was really about. But what you probably didn't know is that this special broke every single rule of television animation in 1965. And I mean every rule. See, back then, cartoons were loud, fast, and packed with sound effects. They had laugh tracks telling you when to laugh. They used adult voice actors doing kid voices. And they definitely didn't quote scripture. Charles Schulz didn't care about any of that. And there's one decision he made, one absolutely stubborn decision, that the network fought him on until the very last minute. We'll get to that in a second, but first, you need to understand just how rushed this whole production was. Fact number one, the impossible deadline. Here's the setup. It's spring 1965. Producer Lee Mendelson gets a call from McCann Erickson, the ad agency for Coca-Cola. They want a Peanuts Christmas special. Great news, right? Except there's a catch. They want it ready for broadcast in December, that same year. Now, for context, most animated specials took 12 to 18 months to produce. Mendelson and animator Bill Melendez had 6 months. 6 months to write it, animate it, record it, score it, and deliver it to CBS. They finished the special just 10 days before it aired. 10 days. The final scene, you know, the one where the kids decorate Charlie Brown's tree and sing "Hark, the Herald Angels Sing," that was completed at the absolute last possible moment. Bill Melendez later said it was like finishing your homework as the teacher walks down the aisle collecting papers. But here's what makes this even crazier. Despite the insane deadline, despite the panic, despite everyone thinking it would fail, the animation in this special is intentionally simple. And that wasn't a mistake. That was the whole point. Which brings us to the second fact. And this one's going to surprise you, because it involves a decision that saved the production, but also made the special look completely different from anything else on TV. Fact number two, the animation was deliberately flat. Bill Melendez had worked for Warner Brothers and Disney. He knew how to make characters move with personality and flair. But Peanuts was different. Schultz's comic strip characters were flat, two-dimensional, limited movement. And Schultz wanted the TV special to honor that simplicity. So, while other cartoons had characters bouncing around with exaggerated expressions, Charlie Brown and the gang barely moved. Their heads were perfect circles, which, by the way, was a nightmare for animators to keep consistent. But there's one character who got special treatment. One character who could stretch, squash, dance, and move freely. The animators loved working on this character because he gave them creative freedom. Snoopy. Melendez said, "He can do anything, move and dance, and he's very easy to animate." That's why Snoopy gets all the best action beats. The ice skating wipeout, the doghouse decorating frenzy. the dance-off. But even Snoopy couldn't save them from the biggest problem they faced, the voices. Because what they did with the voice acting was so unconventional, so risky, that it almost got the special canceled before it even aired. Fact number 3. The kids couldn't read their lines. Here's where it gets really interesting. In 1965, every cartoon used adult actors doing kid voices. It was standard practice, cheaper, more reliable, and you could get through recording sessions faster. Charles Schulz said no. He wanted real kids. So they hired actual children. Peter Robbins, age 8, voiced Charlie Brown. Christopher Shea voiced Linus. And Sally Brown, that was 6-year-old Kathy Steinberg. Here's the problem. Kathy was 6. She couldn't read the script. So director Bill Melendez had to feed her lines one word at a time. She'd repeat them back. Then the sound engineers would stitch those tiny fragments together like an audio Frankenstein. That clipped, halting rhythm you hear in Sally's voice, that wasn't a stylistic choice. That was survival. And it gets better. They recorded all the dialogue in one single day. One chaotic day of kids running around, losing focus, and Melendez doing everything short of juggling to keep them on task. But you know what? That authenticity, that genuine, awkward, real sound, is exactly what made the special work. Those kids sounded like actual kids, not like squeaky cartoon characters. And speaking of things that shouldn't have worked but did, let's talk about the music. Because the jazz score almost got buried by the network, and it's now one of the most iconic soundtracks in television history. Fact number 4, CBS tried to kill the jazz soundtrack. Picture this. It's 1965. Christmas music means Bing Crosby, sleigh bells, and orchestral arrangements. Vince Guaraldi shows up with a cool West Coast jazz trio. Producer Lee Mendelson had heard Guaraldi's song Cast Your Fate to the Wind on the radio while riding in a San Francisco cab. He thought, that's it. That's the sound. But when CBS executives heard the jazz demos, they hated it. Too mellow, too grown up. Where were the flutes and xylophones? Where was the Christmas? Some people on the production team wanted something bouncier. Basically, Saturday morning cartoon music. Bill Melendez didn't listen. He used the jazz demos anyway, in secret. While others imagined traditional Christmas music, the animators were storyboarding to Guaraldi's cool piano riffs. By the time anyone realized what happened, the jazz was baked into the special. And it fit perfectly. That quiet melancholy, those breezy piano riffs. It matched Schulz's tone so naturally that even the skeptics had to admit it worked. Today, the soundtrack has sold over 5 million copies. It was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2007. Linus and Lucy is now one of the most recognizable pieces of music in American culture, but none of that would have mattered if Schulz hadn't won the biggest fight of all, the one fight that almost killed the special before it aired. And this is the decision I mentioned at the beginning. Fact number 5, the Bible scene almost didn't happen. All right, here's the moment that defined everything. Late in production, Charles Schulz told the team he wanted Linus to recite the nativity story from the Gospel of Luke, word for word, on national television. Mendelson and Melendez looked at each other and thought, well, there go our careers. CBS executives saw the scene and said, the Bible thing scares us. In 1965, fewer than 10% of Christmas TV shows contained any direct reference to religion. It was controversial, it was risky, sponsors could pull out, viewers might complain. Schulz didn't budge. He turned to Melendez and said, if we don't do it, who will? So they kept it in. And when Linus walks to center stage, asks for a spotlight, and recites, and there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, that moment became the emotional heart of the entire special. It's the moment that answers Charlie Brown's question. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about? And here's the detail most people miss. When Linus says, fear not, he drops his security blanket. It's the only time in the entire special he lets it go. Schultz wasn't subtle. He wanted you to feel it. The message gives Linus a security deeper than anything he can hold in his hand. Now, you'd think after all these battles, the deadline, the voices, the music, the Bible scene, that the team would feel confident going into the premiere. But they didn't. In fact, they were convinced they'd just made the worst mistake of their lives. Fact number 6, everyone thought it would bomb. Here's what happened at the final screening. Bill Melendez watched the completed special in a theater just days before the premiere. He turned to his crew and said, "My golly, we've killed it." Lee Mendelson felt the same way. When they showed it to CBS executives in New York, the complaints rolled in. Too slow. Music doesn't fit. Animation's too simple. One executive said, "If it hadn't already been scheduled, there's no way we'd broadcast this show." They'd already promoted it across TV, radio, and print. The airtime was locked in. Coca-Cola had committed. They couldn't pull it without admitting they'd hyped a disaster. So CBS gritted their teeth and aired it anyway. December 9th, 1965, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. 45% of everyone watching television that night tuned in. 15 million households. It ranked number 2 in the ratings, beaten only by Bonanza. Critics loved it. The Hollywood Reporter called it delightfully novel and amusing. The New York Post praised the neat transition from comic page to screen. And Harriet Van Horn of the New York World Telegram said Linus's Bible reading was the dramatic highlight of the season. The special won an Emmy for Outstanding Children's Program. It won a Peabody Award, and CBS immediately ordered 4 more Peanut specials. But there's one more fact, one final piece of this story that shows just how much this special changed American culture. And it has to do with something you probably have in your house right now. Fact number 7, it killed the aluminum Christmas tree. In 1965, aluminum Christmas trees were everywhere. Shiny, silver, space age. They were the hot new trend. Then Charlie Brown walked into that tree lot, looked at all those flashy artificial trees, and picked the saddest, scrawniest, most pathetic real tree on the lot. He picked it because it was authentic, imperfect, honest. Everything the aluminum trees weren't. Sales of aluminum Christmas trees tanked almost immediately after the special aired. By 1967, they'd stopped manufacturing them. Charlie Brown brought back the real tree tradition in a single beautifully awkward moment. So here's what you need to understand about A Charlie Brown Christmas. It broke every rule. It was made in 6 months. It used real kids who couldn't read. It had a jazz soundtrack nobody wanted. It quoted the Bible on primetime television. And everyone involved thought it would end their careers. Instead, it became one of the most beloved pieces of television ever made. Not because it followed the formula, but because it ignored it completely. Charles Schultz trusted his instincts. He kept it simple, he kept it real, and he refused to compromise on what mattered. 60 years later, we're still watching, still gathering around, still learning what Christmas is really about from a kid who can't kick a football and a dog who dances on a piano. All right, here's what I need from you. YouTube just rolled out a new feature where you can hype videos. It's like a super like that helps push content to more people. If you enjoyed this deep dive, click that hype button and help spread the word about this video. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button, because every week we're uncovering the stories behind the movies and shows that shaped your childhood. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's your favorite moment from A Charlie Brown Christmas? Is it Linus's speech, Snoopy's dance, that sad little tree? I want to hear from you. And finally, share this video with someone who loves classic Christmas specials. Maybe it's your brother who still quotes Peanuts. Maybe it's your buddy who's obsessed with TV history. Whoever it is, send them this link. They'll thank you for it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.